Hello and welcome to Let's Be Real About It, where we're real about real life issues. I am your host, Mildred Towns. I have to read this disclaimer that this is a no holds barred zone. Therefore, some of the contents of the show may be offensive to some, but that is not the intent of the show. But before I introduce my guest tonight, I want to thank our sponsors, J&K Style Grill, Zion City of Deliverance, and our anonymous sponsor for the show. And I just want to say, if let's be real about it, been a blessing to you, please consider being a sponsor. You can email me at iheartministries@gmail.com, or you can contact me on Facebook or Instagram. Uh, and my book, Truth, please order my book, Truth, is my autobiography about the devastation and the tough times that I went through in life that I don't want you to have to go through. And you can also order the brochure, Cry from the Wound. And you can email me, and I will tell you how you can get your copies. Uh, so for my special guest tonight is a phenomenal and amazing woman, uh, a woman that don't look like what she's been through. And I just want to welcome Dr. Serena Harris to the show tonight. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Let's Be Real About It. It's good to have you here.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Good to be here.
Yes, so glad to have you here. And Dr. Serena, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your books and different things like that.
Well, my name is Serena Harris. I am the co-pastor of Holy Temple United Churches Inc. in Norfolk, Virginia. I'm a wife, a mother of um, 16, actually. Think it's like 29 grandchildren we have. Um, I'm also an entrepreneur. I own a home health agency, two of them. Um, I have a doctorate degree, and I am a domestic abuse overcomer. I'm a women's advocate, and I'm just one who loves the Lord.
Hey man, because you always busy doing something, always busy,
Yeah.
always. And as I said, I'm gonna say this again: you just don't look like what you've been through. You just don't look like it. I read your story, Sister Sister, and I was just blown away with your story. Share with us a little bit about your childhood.
Well, my childhood, I am one of two um girls, one of two children from my mother, and we grew up in an abusive background, an abusive home. Um, but I've always was one that would go to church with my neighbors, and I love the Lord. Um, and so that was my first introduction to God from my neighbors. Thank God for neighbors. Even though my purpose for going was not actually to seek the Lord, I went because I had a crush on my neighbor's son. But God used that as a way of getting me to his house, and so that I could have an encounter with him.
Okay, so here you are, 26 years old. You have three children. There's a young man. Well, let me go back. You're the man that you're in love with, incarcerated. But then this tall, dark, handsome, sexy young thing, girl, this Peter Paul Mount Almond Joy, moved next door to you. That's not even 19 years old yet. Moved next door to you. You call him your sex toy. I call him a boy toy. So talk about that.
Yeah. The guy at that time, I was the mother of three children. My youngest child at the time was maybe 6 months old, and his father was the one that I was originally supposed to have married. But something went wrong down at the courts that we wasn't able to get married, and so I'm devastated. I'm thinking I'm never gonna see him again. Well, at least anytime soon. And so I just met this young man that moved in next door to me, with his relatives, and we became friends, and we would just, drink and smoke together. And then, you know, um, I was attracted to him. He was attracted to me. So I'm like, why not? It's been a long time. And so we got together. And the first night that we got together, because at the time I'm 26, he's 18, he's turning 19 in a couple of months. Um, I wasn't thinking relationship wise. It was just something to do for me. I thought it was a game, actually. But from that first night we was together, he never left my house. And so
And
that's the
yeah,
first.
girl, and you made the statement. I'm gonna have to say this, that y'all had sex 20 times in one night. Girl, look, when I was out there, girl, 2 or 3 times in one night was a lot, but 20 times in one night. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Yeah.
How did you survive 20 times in one night?
Yeah. I'm, it was a game to me. I'm like, hey, he was the first person that I ever met, that I engaged in, and that many times in one night. Um, but yeah, he was younger than me. I was young, but he was younger, and so I guess his stamina was kind of high.
They
But
don't get tired. They don't get tired. They got energy.
you know,
but something But something interesting you said, when you and Mr. X were intimate, you would feel eyes looking at you. And at one time, you saw three distinct faces. And you said that this is something that had not happened with the previous 30 men you were intimate with. Talk about that.
yes, none of the men, because I was one who suffered from low self esteem, and so I just felt like I began to think like a man. Rather, I felt like that the more men I slept with, I felt like that was victory for me, or an accomplishment for me, because I suffer from low self esteem. And so the previous men that I have been with, which were many, um, I never felt eyes watching me until um my first husband and I, we were boyfriend and girlfriend then, or dating, kicking it, whatever you want to say. Um we weren't married yet, and every time we were intimate, I felt like somebody was watching me. Even though it was pitch dark in the room, I felt the eyes watching me. And there were times when I would look at him just in general conversation or anything, and I would see three distinct faces on him. It was so uncanny. It was something that I've never experienced before and never have since him. That eyes were looking at me and that I saw three distinct faces on an individual.
Do you feel that maybe God was telling you that something wasn't exactly right with the guy next door, or what do you think that may have represented?
Well, yeah, once I became um a Christian, a believer, a follower of Christ, and as I look back, I know that's what the Lord was trying to show me, um that this person was three different people. um and so I didn't understand it at that time. I didn't have a spiritual eye. All I had was lust, because I saw it, but I didn't um try to understand why I was seeing it, or nor did I question why I was seeing it. I didn't care. I was in lust. I wasn't in love yet. I was in lust at the time, and that's all that mattered to me. But again, once I became a believer and a follower of Christ, I understood that, it was God warning me, opening up my eyes to see, that something is amiss.
Yeah. Oh, after 3 months of drinking, smoking weed, playing around with your sex toy, he asked you to marry him. Mind you, at this time, you was living in the projects. You had 3 kids. He had no job. He had no car. He had no money. He had nothing. And you said yes. Talk about this and talk about what your wedding was like.
Well, yeah, he asked me to marry him. I was washing my hair at the sink, and he just walked up to me and asked me to marry him. So I'm looking at him. Are you serious? He was like, yes, I am. And so I just said yes. Even though I was not in love with him, I was very much in lust with him. But I figured the guy that I love, or the man that I love, is in jail. I'm not gonna see him for 10 plus years. So I thought, and I was already suffering from low self esteem, and it appeared as though Mr. X really loved my first husband, really loved me. It appeared as though he, would do anything for me, and I figured this was my last chance. I didn't have a lot of guys knocking down my door asking me to marry them, so I just felt like it was something to do. And so we went downtown and got the papers, the license, and my next door neighbor, which was um his cousin, well, I later found out wasn't his cousin, but at the time, he had told me that that was his cousin, and she told me the same thing. And so she had a pastor, and she was 21 at the time, and her pastor, we called her pastor and asked her pastor would he come and do the nuptials, and he did. And the nuptials was in my living room in the projects. None of my family was there. None of his family was there. I called my family and told them I'm getting married in a couple of hours. If y'all want to come, I guess they thought I was joking. They was like, no, we can't come over there, right now. I said, okay, well, I did invite you. I had on a black t-shirt and some red shorts. He had on some think beige khakis and like a t-shirt, and that's how we got married in my living room in the projects.
Okay. You mentioned about your self esteem was low, and your emotions at this stage in your life. What do you think brought that on to where your emotions and your self esteem, how you felt about yourself, would be so low? Because for you to feel as though, and I know you have mentioned this, that nobody else was going to be knocking down your door to marry you.
Yes, I just felt like being raised up in an abusive home, um and then I felt like because I wasn't as skinny as other women, I felt like that I wasn't good enough, I wasn't pretty enough, or I wasn't small enough. And so I just felt like that I would just accept whatever comes my way. And I felt like because I was living in the projects after all, and so I was getting, at the time I was getting government assistance, and so I just really was feeling kind of low. I mean, I was a unwed mother of three, mind you, by three different men. And so my self esteem was just all over the place. I had no one to speak into my life. I had no one to tell me that I was beautiful. I had no one to tell me that, I deserve better. I can have better, to encourage me that I should want to do better. I didn't have that. And so that's what um, caused my low self esteem. It actually grew. And so it just caused me to make decisions that I do believe, because of my low self esteem, it caused me to make decisions that were not good decisions for my life or my children's life.
Okay. That makes sense because so many, myself included, and so many other women, suffer from that, and we make choices according to how we feel,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
and with no expectation of something greater can come my way.
Absolutely.
2 weeks after the marriage, you find out you were pregnant with your fourth child,
Yes.
and everything was all right for the first 3 months of the marriage until one night in 1995 that was set the scene for the next 13 years of your life. Talk about that.
Yeah. 3 months after we were married, I was 3 months pregnant at the time. It was Christmas time. We had gotten a argument, which I think was our first argument, but it blew up. Um, over something very minor, concerning my youngest son's father, the guy that I was supposed to marry, who was still incarcerated. And he had sent through his family members gifts to my son. So my husband had got jealous, and we kind of argued, and he tore up the house, tore up the Christmas tree, and I'm looking at him throwing the Christmas tree, and it was a big Christmas tree all over the house, swinging it, and ended up throwing me outside in the. It was snowing that night, and he threw me outside in the snow barefooted, and I'm 3 months pregnant. And I just thought, oh my God, who or what have I married? What have I done? Because he had hid that side of him when we were dating. Um, well, if you could call it dating, while we were, just kicking it, I guess. He 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 hid that side of himself because we never argued. He was just so attentive to me and everything. So to see that, I'm like, oh my, what did I do? And that was the beginning of many years of sorrow.
I can see that. Like I say, my mama have went through that, and we as children went through that. So I can understand that feeling. But I see him as this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Like this is the second face. You saw him that first face as a man that was loving and kind. Y'all having sex every night. There's this tall, dark, handsome piece of chocolate. Y'all getting high. You get married. Everything just going lovely. As a marriage should be. But in what year was that? 1995. That just over something simple that was sent to your son, this man goes ballistic, tearing up the house, tearing down the Christmas tree, push you outside. You out there, 3 months pregnant, no coat, no shoes on your feet, and you're out there, because the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, he had a split personality to where he would transform into Mr. Hyde and become a sociopath who cared about nobody and cared about nothing but himself. He was evil, he was violent, and he had no conscience. And I say that because of he going from one thing to the next thing. And let me ask you this: when you was out there, and I think you mentioned this, but I'm not for sure. When you was out there on the ground in the snow, no coat, no shoes, at any time, and I think you mentioned this, I'm gonna say that again. Did you say, who is this person?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was just so flabbergasted. Who is this? I don't recognize this person. Granted, I only knew him for 3 months. So I didn't give myself ample amount of time to get to know the person, because you really don't know someone until you see them upset and mad.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to learn that the hard way.
So yeah, I could see, girl. So many of our life experiences. That's how we learn. We learn the hard way. And even if somebody tried to tell us, we're not going to listen. So until we experience it, and then we can say, if I would have only listened, if I would have only listened to what was being said, then I wouldn't be in the predicament, that I'm in right now. And then let me ask you this: at any time, let me ask you this first. That night, did he hit you?
No, he just threw me outside. He didn't hit me that night.
You stated in the book that you were experiencing something that you have never experienced with the 30 men that you have been with, and you said that you didn't want to become like your mother. Talk about that.
My mother endured abuse, and I viewed her as weak. I viewed her as someone that wouldn't, not gonna say stand, well, yeah, not stand up for herself, but wouldn't, you know, want to put her children in this type of, or get her children out of this type of environment. And I just felt like she just allowed the abuse to go on, and you stayed with this man, and he was mean. And so I made a vow when I was young that I would never be that way. I would never be with a man that hit me, never be with a man that abused me, and those words that I had vowed came back during the duration of the time that I was being abused. So you never say never. I never would have dreamed that I would be in a situation like that because I was a fighter. Now I did fight back, but still I shouldn't be fighting anybody in my marriage. I shouldn't have to live with a man who puts his hands on me because of we don't agree on the same thing. I shouldn't be afraid of my own house. That shouldn't even been a factor, at all. Me being abused, but it happened to me, and I look back and I kind of understood. I was more sympathetic to my mother's situation because I wanted to get out. I wanted to leave, but I had more children than her. I had 8 children. She had 2, and I had nowhere to go. I couldn't. I had nobody house to go to with 8 children. He was the main breadwinner, and so I felt trapped. That's why I stayed. And then I was in the church, and it was in my mind, you can't divorce. This is early on in my early years in the church. I'm not having a really understanding, and so I had so much going through my mind. And then when I finally tried to get out, I tried to seek help, and one of the organizations I went to, they didn't have room for a woman with 8. At the time, I had 7 kids. No, I had all 8. A woman with 8 kids. They didn't have room, and so I'm like, well, I guess it's just destined for me to, be in this situation. So
Man, and the beatings went on for years.
for
And
years,
in between the beatings came the babies.
yes,
So talk about that real quick. Talk about that.
um, yeah. Though I was being abused, um, I still was being intimate with him, not by choice, um, but by force. And I kept getting pregnant. I think by him, I was pregnant a total of 7 times with 5 live births, 2 miscarriages that he bragged about causing to occur. And during each pregnancy, I was hit, thrown on the ground. I was He fought on me during each pregnancy. So just because I was pregnant, the abuse did not stop.
Girl, I mean, I mean, that he had no remorse. He had no concern that here my woman is. She's pregnant with my children, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that in part two because you said something. You made a statement. Do you think that I'm trying to figure out how to word it? Do you think that women? A lot of people say that there's no way that a woman can be raped in a marriage. What's your opinion on that? Because if I'm not mistaken, you said that you was forced to have sex with him.
Yes. When I say force, that means I didn't want to. And after he would beat me, he would rip my undergarments off and force himself on me. Now, I heard a lot of times you can't be raped in a marriage. No means no. And somebody just beat you and then rips your undergarments off and expect you to be inviting or attractive to them or respond to them in a sexual manner after they just beat the crap out of you, and now they're ripping, and forcing themselves on you, in a harsh manner. That's what I mean by force. I didn't want it. It wasn't enjoyable. I didn't like it. I laid there and prayed and, singing gospel songs in my mind to try to um not be present during the event. I mean, I'm hurt. I just got beat, but he would force himself on me, even though this was my husband.
And so many women out there are go through that right now, and they report it, and it's like there's no such thing. I'm gonna say quote unquote that the wife can be raped by her husband.
Mm.
But like you're saying, if you say stop, it means stop. Now,
Yeah,
if you don't come up on me, you're gonna force your way. I'm trying to hold my legs together because I don't want to, and then that makes them mad. If I
yeah,
turn my back, that makes them mad. And here this woman is, me too, going through this, and you say it's not consented
uh-huh.
sex, even though the man may say this is my wife, but yet it's still not consensual sex.
Right. It's a form of abuse. You're hurting me in another way, in another manner as well. That's just still a abuse. What you're doing to me, you're abusing me sexually now.
Yeah. So they went from the physical to
Right,
the sexual,
right. Then
and
you got the verbal, the emotional. I endured it all: verbal, emotional, sexual, physical, mental. I endured it all.
but yet look at you. Look at you. Don't look like what you've been through.
God be.
So God, next week, Dr. Serena is coming back for part two. It gets deeper, guys. It gets deeper than this. Dr. Serena, thank you for being transparent with us tonight. And tell everyone how they can contact you and how they can order the Sister to Sister as well as your other books.
Well, I wrote a book about this story, and it's called Overcomer. You can contact me at Doctors S Harris Ministries at gmail.com, or you can call me at 757-228-2513. I also co-authored a book with 9 other women, entitled Sister Sister Her Story, where I had the pleasure of co-authoring a book with 9 other women who had stories of triumphs happen in their lives as well. I have the book Overcomer, which talks about um, what we're discussing on tonight. And so you can just reach me at the Gmail or the phone number that I provided a few minutes ago if you want to order a book.
Amen. Because I'm one of the authors in the book, Sister to
Yeah.
Sister, as well. So, it's many good stories in the book. So, I would advise you to order the book and read some of the stories that's in the book. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel, y'all, at I Heard Ministry, Saturday, 4.22 Towns. And follow me on Roku on Our Brothers Keeper channel, as well as Amazon Fire Stick on Our Brothers Keeper channel. And I just want to give special thanks tonight to all who watch the show nationally, internationally, our new people who watch in Brazil, Mexico, Costa Rica, in Korea, Sweden, Russia, Romania, Israel, Germany, the Netherlands, and Australia. And it goes on and on. I would like to hear from you. Please send an email to iheardministries@gmail.com or hit me up on Facebook or Instagram to let me know what state or country you are viewing the show. And also, if you have any questions about any shows that we have done, or you just want to chat, so send us a email. Until next week, let the peace of God reign, rule, and abide in your hearts. I'm Mildred Towns. Thank you for watching.